Welcome back to English 102 with me, your instructor, Jeff Sanger. Boy, we're nearing the end. Some folks have already submitted the data commentary paper, which is just great. I'm looking forward to reading them. I did want to offer you a few final videos related to this just to make sure you have everything you need to make it really excellent. So, there was a discussion board a while back about the data commentary section. Lots of people participated in this, and the vast majority of what I read on there was really good. I wrote feedback back to people on it. And there were a couple that had issues, and I let people know what they needed to do. But I do want to just demonstrate via video. There's been lots of materials in the modules about this, but I wanted to demonstrate via video what we mean by data, right? How you're supposed to find data in that academic journal article and comment on it. Of course, you needed two academic journal articles for the annotated bibliography. You only have to use one of them in the data commentary section, or you could use both if you want. I've left that up to you. That's clearly spelled out in the directions. All right, let's just get right into this. Again, this is just going to be a pretty brief video, right? Because if you have a pointed question about your academic journal article, if you're not sure what to do with it, if you want assistance, email it to me and I'll look it over and we can talk more about it, or you could show me that part of your paper. I could give you advanced feedback on how you're handling that section, or if you just have general questions, we could talk about it via Zoom. That's what those office hours these last 2 weeks are for. Anyhow, here is an academic journal article that I found related to plastic waste. All right. Now, of course, this might not be your topic, but again, the interesting thing about academic journal articles is that there's many similarities that they share, right? Like, for example, they almost always have abstracts. They often title the first section Introduction. This is where they give you an overview of the topic. Very, very similar to what I asked you to do in the introduction section of your own data commentary paper, right? I did not want to see a bunch of opinionated writing in there, no thesis statements. And indeed, these folks don't have that either. They're giving you an overview of the topic of plastic waste in the ocean. Right. Now, certainly I do think you should read this because it will help with understanding the article. However, this is probably not the data that you want to use to comment on. For example, if you look at what I've highlighted here, it talks about how the problem of plastic waste first appeared in the 50s, and it talks about how much plastic was produced during that time. Well, I'm sure you could develop a comment on it, but I don't think that that would be very relevant, right? Because it's a fact from back in the 50s. And indeed, their research is not focused on what was happening with plastic back in the 50s. They're just trying to provide you some context. Okay. Where might you find the data? Now, lots of academic journal articles they use headings differently, right? But a lot of times there is a heading that says findings or data, or sometimes you can find graphs that obviously that's a great piece of data that you can look at and try to figure out and comment on, right? But if we start to scroll through here, then you see this heading. That sounds interesting. Influence on the living world. Right. And so then here they make a bold statement here about the impact of the waste on animals. And then they start to provide some interesting facts about how these animals interacted with the waste and what the effects of it were. And as you can see, it talks about, the percentage of cases where the waste that they interacted with was plastic, right? And it was plastic 92% of the time. And there's further facts about how they interacted with it, right? Whether they swallowed it or were tangled up in it. Obviously, this is a significant piece of data that you could comment on in terms of the importance of addressing this, in terms of the proof of it being a problem, in terms of the proof of its impact on our ecosystem. Okay. Now, of course, there's lots of other facts in here as well, right? There's a whole other section talking about the toxic chemicals that are associated with the plastic, right? So you just decide, again, you're supposed to have read the whole thing to develop a sound annotation for it in the annotated bibliography. And so the idea is that you know it well and you've identified the data that you're most interested in commenting on and talking about, right? And of course, then at the end, they have their conclusions where, they're not going to be too opinionated here, right? Because these are researchers, but they're going to offer some suggestions based on, for further research at least, based on some of their findings. So again, not, your article is going to look different than this because it's going to be in a different journal, but we're just trying to talk about how to scan through the thing to find data. I think that's probably good enough for a demo of an example because again, if you're really struggling with this, if you have a question, email me, I'll look over the article and we will work on it together. All right, so as I said, I think that's probably good in terms of that demo. Just a reminder, if you're struggling with what the comment should look and sound like, that's sort of difficult to demonstrate via a video like this. I would encourage you to revisit this module if you are struggling with this, right? There's some great suggestions in there for how to provide the appropriate strength level to your comment. And there's even a practice article in here that provides some facts that you can go in and have fun trying to comment on and then looking at the answers. Again, I do think this is helpful in terms of what that comment looks like. And of course, this was paired back with that data commentary discussion board. That's all I've got. I look forward to reading your final paper and I want to help you as much as I can. So be sure to message me or sign into one of my Zoom office hours that I'll be posting in Canvas. Take care.